Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. I am Gihan Hyde, and I am the founder and CEO of CommUnique. We are an advisory firm that helps organizations to integrate ESG and sustainability within their business model, communicate it effectively and clearly to their audience, but most importantly, train their employees on why should they care basically about sustainability and why is the organization committed to saving people on planet. We're a B Corp certified and we are based in the UK. The objective of these LinkedIn Live is that it's our way of sharing knowledge around the topic and its subsidiaries or sub elements. And today is a topic that is extremely dear to my heart, and that is active allyship. But before we go into all of that, I wanted to introduce my amazing guest and dear friend to my heart, Nadia. Hi, Nadia.
Hi, Gihan, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today under your brand. I mean, it's fantastic, the work that you do. And offline, I just called you the Queen of ESG, and you certainly are that. And I must share with everybody, whenever I've got any question around how we can be more active in sustainability, in environmental issues, in government, I'm always coming to you. So thank you for all your help so far.
By the way, I promise I did not pay her to say that. That is amazing. Thank you, Nadia. Oh gosh, I'm going to talk to you every day. So, Nadia, can you please introduce yourself and tell us why this topic is dear to your heart?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Nadia. I'm the Chief Customer Officer of Harrington Starr. And Harrington Starr, we are a recruitment agency. We specialize in placing technology and sales staff all across financial services. And I myself, I've worked in the recruitment industry since 2004, 2005, always placing technologists or salespeople into financial services. And one thing I learned really early on is, what is the point of finding people jobs that they're not going to be happy in? It's detrimental to everybody's lives, everybody's progress. It's detrimental to the industry and to businesses. And in fact, I believe that recruitment has a huge responsibility to helping us raise the game. And when I say raise the game, raise the quality of our environments, of our career progression, of our cultures, of all our workplaces, to really improve the lives of the people that work within this community. So when we're going to be talking about allyship today, this to me is fundamental to everything that you do and everything that I do in the talent space.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And thank you for this amazing introduction. So before we start, if you're joining us, please do ask questions. There is no such thing as a silly question. Take advantage of Nadia because she is the expert in that topic, and she's full of wisdom. But before we do go and dive deeply in on allyship and how can you become an active ally, let me first explain, what does allyship mean? So apparently the term was dubbed by Nicole Asong Hara, who's the director of the diversity program at the Mayo Clinic. And the way she defined this term is basically when a person of a privilege works in solidarity and partnership with marginalized people to help them to take down the systems that challenges this group and their basic rights. So that is the definition of allyship, and we're fine with that. So Nadia, how can I be an ally? So if I've just heard about this term, what does it, entail? How do I become an active ally?
Yeah, I think firstly, the bridge that I want to cross is that I think everybody has the potential and should be an ally to those around them. And what I mean by that is, even the original definition of allyship, it almost segments society into demographics, but all of us are privileged in some way. So I may be part of a marginalized community in the fact that most people don't know my ethnic background. They definitely identify me as a woman, which puts me as a minority in business. But I am also in a position of privilege, having worked in the recruitment community for so many years, having built up my career, and now having such a voice that can amplify other people. So it would be very easy for me to put myself only in a minority group and therefore say, well, I can't be an ally to others. Well, that's not the case. I am going to work on the privilege that I have worked myself into becoming to be able to amplify other people's voices. So that's my first thing on allyship. Like what can we all do to support one another, and where is our position of privilege, where is our voice, where are we heard? And for me, that's the foundation of allyship within the workplace, the end of us all waiting for someone else to do it. And when it comes to inclusion in the workplace, when it comes to really supporting the diversity that we're trying to build within the workplace, there are so many factors that we need to consider to make sure that inclusion also means equity and parity, and just the fundamental basics of people being paid fairly, being recognized fairly, and being promoted fairly. So when I think of allyship, and when I want people to think of themselves as being allies to one another, most people who know me will think I sound like a broken record when I talk about those three things: the pay, the recognition, and the promotion. Because in all the work that I have done, in all my years of working in recruitment, I have been conducting research. I am not somebody's official exit interview. So I hear the real reasons why people are leaving their workspaces. I hear the real things that are bothering people, that holds them back in their career, and the real problems that are getting in the way of people actually wanting to commit to this industry long term. So when I think about allyship in our workplaces across financial services, from tiny fintechs to traditional banks, there are problems here that actually will flow over into all environments and all industries. And it comes down to these three things, pay, recognition, and promotion. So when we talk about being an ally, there are so many things that can be done. But the first thing, recognize yourself and then be active through being vocal. And you can only be vocal once you start believing in the fact that you can make some change happen. And because there are so many issues and such a multitude of things that we can work on in our industries and in our environments, I think that there's many ways you can be an ally. And I'm sure we'll go into exactly what each of those ways are. But the first thing for me is recognition that you have the power to be an ally.
I love that. I love that. The problem is, Nadia, everyone is so sensitive about the topic of diversity, of inclusion, and now there's woke happening, and people are the way I'm seeing, and when I'm speaking to our clients we're helping, basically, because part of ESG is you have to report on your diverse workforce and how you're treating your employees and how are you giving them fair treatment. I'm seeing a lot, and I don't know if you're seeing this, that people want to help, but they're too worried and too scared to help because they are scared that they will offend the people that they're trying to help, if that makes sense.
And I think this is one of the biggest problems with allyship. Like, allyship is so fragile. People love to call themselves allies, but what are you actually doing? And actually, it's a confidence thing as well. I think it's very easy to say, oh, I don't want to offend somebody, or it's not my place, when actually we have all sat in a meeting where you have seen a woman being spoken over, or someone of an ethnic minority who's put forward an idea that everyone's ignored, and then somebody else has put it forward and everyone's applauded it. And we will all have examples where we've sat there and allowed that to happen. And then we've left that meeting and thought, well, that wasn't for me. So that isn't offending anybody. If you were to say, hold on, I've just noticed that isn't fair. This is the basic fundamentals of human interaction. And how the hell have we allowed this to happen in our workplace when we talk about diversity, or we've just won an award for diversity, and actually this is where I think we all need to really be honest with ourselves, because allyship and calling yourself an ally, unfortunately, it's really fragile. I mean, you mentioned the word woke, which always gets my heckles up, because, if we're not awake, what are we? Are we asleep? And who are these sleepers? And why are we so proud to be asleep on this subject, but embarrassed to be awake? And this to me is, the trolls of the world that are trying to hold back the amazing progression everybody could have if we were to switch our mind on to the power of inclusion and the benefits of inclusion for all. And this to me is the biggest barrier to anyone deciding they can be an ally to one another. And that barrier is someone not seeing that inclusion will benefit them. So someone who is in a traditional position of privilege feeling like inclusion would infringe on their ability to progress or hold them back because they've got to give somebody else an opportunity. And this to me is a really archaic way of thinking, and actually a really underconfident way of thinking. And like allowing this to be a threat in your mind. And this to me is what I think really holds us back. And we hear lots of clouded ways of holding allyship back. The woke brigade is what I've heard. Or careful the pendulum doesn't swing too far the other way. I've heard that as well. Or well, Nadia, don't positively discriminate. Let's just share some facts, right? We have recently had the gender pay gap report released, and UK-wide there is a discrepancy of 9.4%. And in financial services is something like 22.1, 22.2%, something like that. So we're one of the worst industries in the UK on this. And just to be really clear, when they do the gender pay gap report, it's not that they are reporting on unequal pay, which I believe does happen. That is illegal. So if someone is doing a like-for-like job and the woman or the person from an ethnic minority or the person on a visa or the person with a disability is paid less than whoever else, that's unequal pay, which I do believe still happens. But the gender pay gap report is more about who is getting progressed in your businesses, who is earning more because they are in the more senior positions. And this is where we face huge problems. And this is why I always talk about not just pay, but recognition and promotion. And this is where allyship can really come in, because when people say, well, what can I do to be an ally? I can't change how someone's paid. No, you may not be able to change that. But you could definitely ask your boss for the gender pay gap report. Or do we report on ethnic minority pay gaps? Do we report on our leadership gap? Do we report on our promotions? Do we know how long somebody from a different demographic to the one I identify as, how long on average they stay within our business? Asking these questions is super powerful, hugely powerful. And that to me, that's an ally. That's someone who's going to HR and saying, hey, I'd like to know this about our business because I'd like to support it in getting better. And anyone and everyone could be involved in that. The promotion and the recognition, I don't just mean promotion as in who is promoted. I mean who is getting promoted constantly in the business, within their ideas and within the meetings, and when people are choosing who to be put on the best projects, who's actually sitting there going, hey, we didn't put her forward. That quiet lady that works from home 4 days a week, she does some amazing work. We always seem to overlook her. That's allyship. Allyship is actually, in my mind, all the tiny little building blocks of just being open and aware of who's around you, standing up for somebody else when they're not in the room, putting somebody's name forward and saying, hey, how about we give that person a chance on this project? I'd love to see their diversity of thought. They've grown up in a totally different environment than I have. Imagine what I could learn from them. And again, this is why I just think allyship has such and inclusion in general has such a powerful position to play within the financial services community and within fintechs, because the fintech mindset is about challenging the status quo and doing things we've never done before and reaching a consumer base we've never reached before. What, with the same demographic we've always had? Come on, it's powerful for all of us to be involved. So when we talk about active allyship, it's choosing to be an ally, and then it's switching your mind on and going, hold on a minute, how about we do this? Let's try this, let's try that. How do we bring that person in? How do we make sure we don't overlook that person because they're fully remote? Or wait a second, that person has a hearing impediment. Maybe we should have somebody supporting them within that meeting. I'd like them to look at our product from the lens of someone who struggles to hear. I'm using that as an example because I wear hearing aids, and my way of looking at the world through the difficulty that I have in hearing means that I could look at a product in a totally different way, because I have different challenges, and that to me is exciting. So imagine how many more exciting avenues we could have if we were all active in our minds when we think, I want to be an ally. I want to make sure that these people aren't overlooked. And you know what? These people will then look at you and make sure you're not overlooked. Imagine where we could go as an industry, as our businesses, as our workplaces, if we all had each other's back and we were all supporting and cheerleading each other fairly to be the best that we could be. And I think this is my last point on this section when it comes to allyship. That feeling of threat, of thinking, oh well, if I'm an ally, will that make a bad difference to me and my demographic? This is such an archaic view of the world, because the commitment that businesses should have to their people is, how do I get that human being to be the best that they want to be within this business? Yes. And lots of people love putting allyship or inclusion into a box in their business. We'll get to that luxury item when we're ready. But wait a second, if we're including everybody, if we're supporting them, backing them, stretching them, they will be the most productive, the most happy, the most stretched that they ever could be. And imagine that times 10. Now imagine that times 100. Now imagine an environment where we're all stretching one another, positively challenging one another, saying, hey, but wait a second, my perspective on this is this. Let's cater for that. Suddenly we are in such a stronger place.
Mm-hmm. But that's interesting, because so we work a lot with our clients when it comes to diversity and inclusion and embedding it within the business model. And we always say whenever a client is committed to ESG, the first thing they say, oh yeah, we want to create an allyship program to help whoever needs help. And I always say to them, it's all good and well to create these programs, but you need to understand whoever is being supported, they need to be conscious. If the person who's supporting them, is he or she a performative ally? Are they considered the upstandard? Are they considered a confident ally? So to give you an example, a performative ally is when someone who supports you or supports a certain group of individuals because there's something in it for them. Whereby an upstandard ally is someone who is the opposite of bystander, who constantly speaks up, who constantly challenges the status quo. Like, to your point, the fintech industry is made for that, and yet again, it's the least diverse industry, along with a lot of more industries like construction and financial services. Yeah. But my favorite type of ally is the confident ally who actually creates a safe space for me to speak up and be myself and acknowledge that I'm facing a problem. And this is what we're doing with our clients and explaining to them, when you are picking the allies who will be part of the program, make sure that they're not performative allies, for example. But they're more of upstandard allies and confident allies, and make sure you have examples to demonstrate why they fall under that bracket. But I loved about what you were saying about the box and always having someone in a box. So I am the queen of not being able to be put in a box, because genuinely, when I was applying for roles, the recruiters and the employers struggled to put me somewhere. I'm a marketer who became PR professional, who became internal communicator, and finally sustainability comms specialist. So whenever I speak to a recruiter, they say, okay, but how are we going to, where do we put you? What role do we? I say, but this is the beauty of me having all of these boxes. I will be bringing something that no one else will be bringing, but they just can't do it. And this is why I love my team. So my team at the moment, we are in total, we're 14 associates. We are all from underdeveloped countries and underrepresented communities. And it's amazing. When I sit with any of them, they challenge me. They make me think differently. They made me realize what mistake I'm doing from an unconscious bias, because Lord behold, I'm sure I am unconscious bias against something. But yeah, no, I just wanted to also give a shout out to Amanda. So Amanda is listening. Amanda works for a company called Sparkle, and they are all about gender pay gaps and identify what is, and she's the one who actually educated me on gender pay gaps. Doesn't mean someone is being paid differently. It means that they haven't been given the same opportunity.
Absolutely.
When it comes to a role. So yes, thank you, Amanda, for educating me around that. So yes, so okay, so what would be the skill sets that an ally would need in order for them to become allies, do you think?
I actually think that when you decide that you want to be more active and you want to help drive your environment to be a better place, I think actually you want to prepare yourself, because you're doing something new, you're doing something different. You're only human. You're going to be a little bit nervous. Like, you're going to say to yourself, next time I'm in that meeting and that person who always gets spoken over, I'm going to say, sorry, please could you let her continue? You know, like, even just a tiny thing like that, which makes such a huge impact. You almost want to prepare exactly how you're going to say it, because there's going to be a lot of nerves around it for you. How are you going to come across? Are you the sort of person that tells somebody that they're wrong, whatever it may be? But I'm a big believer in you plan that. You plan exactly what you'd like to tackle first, and you give it a go. But one thing that I think is really, really key to all of this is actually that open statement to those around you, that you've read something, or you've listened to a pod, or you were with us on this LinkedIn Live, right? And something mattered to you, and you go in and you say to your team, hey, everyone, I listened to this talk with Nads and Gihan, and it's made me think that I should be more of an active ally rather than someone who just sits here inactive or asleep to some of the problems that people face. And you're going to notice it. I'm going to start asking questions. And when you give me feedback, rather than me trying to tell you why your feedback's wrong or you saw it in the wrong way, I'm not going to do that anymore. I am going to listen to you. I'm going to ask you questions, and I'm going to try and learn. Because one thing that was interesting that you said, Gihan, was that you learn so much from your 14 colleagues, and you're learning every day. That's because your eyes and ears are truly open. And I think there are so many leaders in our industry, and I'm sure many others, who they ask questions, but they don't actually listen to the answer. They ask the question to rebut the answer, to turn the person's mind, to change their opinion into their own. And we are so beyond that now in today's working life. I think we can all agree that any workplace, any industry, having that blinkered view is a hindrance and will hold you back. So actually, all of us need to be getting better at truly listening to learn, and to understand why someone's feeling a certain way, and to understand their experience. That is actually, I think, a really easy way of doing that is just to state your intent and say, everyone, I may not get this right, and please tell me.
Exactly.
Please tell me. And if I get it wrong, tell me I've got it wrong. I want to learn, and I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to get better. And that, you know, we all talk about empathetic leadership. We talk about vulnerability, the power of vulnerability. That is a beautiful way of really saying to people, you know, help me be better. And what will end up happening is that then cascades through the business. You know, it cascades around to other people saying, look, I'm giving this a go. Sorry if I get it wrong. How about this? And everyone, their intent is getting better and better. So that would be my advice on step one, for sure.
No, it's interesting. So everyone who meets me, they always say, how are you getting away by asking such personal questions to people? How are you not insulting anyone? And I genuinely say to them, because the way I'm asking, it showcases I'm interested to learn, and that I'm curious about the aspect of their lives. So the other day I asked a founder of a very, very, very famous company, who's turning over 100 million or something. And I said to them, how is you being a founder affecting your work-life balance? And how is it affecting your relationship with your family, your wives, your husband? When I told that to my husband, he said, No one asks that. That's such a personal question. Why would you say that? I said, because I am genuinely interested so that I can learn and try to avoid the mistakes that they have done. I'm a founder. You're a founder, Nadia. We're still falling into the trap of not switching off sometimes.
Always.
You know, right? And I said, I wanted to learn from people who are made a successful company, and I just wanted to see what I can do. And he was like, well, did they answer you? And I said, interestingly, they did.
Yeah.
I was surprised, to be fair, but it's the way I asked it. I was genuine about it.
I agree.
Wanted to learn.
And this is really, really, really important in the recruitment community, you know, because everyone listening, everyone will know, everyone has had a bad experience with a recruiter who's been transactional. And, you know, I definitely haven't been perfect all my years, but I have been honing a craft of where I am looking to truly add proper value to people in their lives and careers. You know, there'll be people out there that may not even remember my name, but they will remember a bit of advice that I gave them for them, not for the wider world, for them to progress their career. And that's a way of working that I subscribed to a long time ago, a way of giving, which is very, very, new in the recruitment space. You give and the get will come later, and you trust the get will come later. But this is also something very new in the working world, you know, like the history of being in the workplace, or the history of any sort of transaction. It was bartering. You get this, I give you that. That's how it went. And actually, you know, you kind of forget that we are in the year 2023, and actually we've learned a much, much better way of communicating, learning, and it's not about transaction only. There's so much more value add that can be around that. And again, this ability to enjoy being in your workplace and enjoy the communication and the communication to learn, I think it's super, super powerful, because that's when people's barriers start to come down. That's when you see the real people, and therefore the real problems that we need to solve. And, you know, you think about anyone now, think about the last week. What were the biggest problems that faced you in the workplace? I bet if you knew that the person on the other side a lot better, you had better communication with them, you probably would be looking now to solve a real problem with them rather than one that you think is the problem. And this to me is why, you know, allyship is so important, because, you know, it's not about just saying it. And that performative piece, we've seen a lot of that. That's got to stop now. The disingenuous awards, that's got to stop now. It's about clear and consistent, and everyone deciding that they can be an ally to somebody else. This isn't about someone swooping in and saving the day. It's about us all saving each other's days. And if we're constantly doing that, we constantly get stronger, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely agree. I cannot disagree with what you were saying. And I actually also think, I mean, we're almost out of time, but I also think that we need to be mindful of the intersectionality of allyship, because I get approached on a day, almost on a weekly basis, for people asking me to either be a part of a panel or join their board or join a conference, purely because I'm African, Black, female founder. And I'm very open. And I actually asked them, I said, are you asking me because I'm the ESG expert or because of that? Some of them actually have the decency of saying, actually, because we really need diversity. And I always say to them, but not because I'm African, Black, female. It means that I went through the exact same discrimination or unconscious bias that others would have faced. So you need to be mindful. I can come along and join you because it's my way of spreading the word around this massive issue. But just be aware, I am not going to act like the victim here. I am not going to be the person who is going to completely badmouth how people are treating me. I'm not going to do that unless it applies to something I actually felt. But I'm not going to generalize. So this is something as well, when you are an ally, you need to be mindful that whoever you're supporting might not have gone through the same situations or discrimination that you think their race would have gone through, if that makes sense.
Totally.
But yes, So yes, anyways, our time is almost up. Nadia, thank you so much. And my last question to you is, how can people find you if they wanted to learn more about this topic?
Please contact me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty vocal. I post pretty much every day, and I'm always there to respond. I'm constantly on LinkedIn, so you can get me there.
I can vouch to that, by the way, everyone. Excellent. Thank you so much, and we will see you next Thursday. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity.
Bye-bye.